Hello there, my name is Brett, the bearded gnome, and I'm in Tresco Abbey Garden. It's a sunny November day, and I'm going to be showing you a little bit around, show you some of the plants and what's in flower, what's looking good. You wouldn't believe it's November because it's so warm. I'm just in a jumper. It's probably about 15 degrees here and the sun is shining. Things don't get too cold in Tresco, which is why things are constantly flowering. The Gulf Stream keeps everything nice and warm, and there's all kinds of crazy species from South Africa, Australia, Chile, and I'm going to be giving you a little insight into them. So come with me and you'll see. So here I am in the palm circle, and all around me are these lovely camellias which have just come into flower. This nice pink one behind me is one called Camellia cross williamsii, the cultivar St Ewe. Now it's a combination of Camellia japonica and Camellia salviensis, I believe, created in 1923. So they're all in the tea family, Phyaceae, and they're from China and Eastern Asia, I think. But this Camellia williamsii St Ewe is an example of hybrid vigour. You can see just how many flowers there are. It's known for its floriferous quality. It's just a stunning shade of pink, and they've all come out now. The floor is just riddled with these lovely pink petals. So camellias, they're acid-loving plants. They're great for foliage. They've got this really nice dark green glossy kind of glow to them, and if you touch them you'll see just how smooth the texture is, and the bark is white with like patches of grey around it. But yeah, looking really nice this time of year. So this is another camellia that's just come into flower. It's also Camellia cross williamsii, and this one is a cultivar called J.C. Williams, and you can see the flower is just a slightly lighter shade of pink. It's quite nice, and your St Ewe is just this one here. Yeah, there's so many bees on it right now. I'm struggle to try and get a flower for you, but yeah, there's the tea. So just in front of these camellias are all these lovely crazy palms. This one next to me is Chamaerops humilis, which is a Mediterranean palm. It's quite robust and almost clump forming. It's got these really kind of vicious spines at the stems and these lovely, very Jurassic-like leaves. It's one of the more hardy palms, along with Trachycarpus fortunei, which is all around me in a nice circle. There's one right there. That's a palm that's from China and Asia. It's a single-stemmed one, so it just gets higher and higher. It's actually naturalised in Switzerland. It's more of a weed, but they spread quite quickly, and there's lots of seedlings popping up all over this place. But they've got these really nice kind of fibrous trunk as they head up. And yeah, there's lots of dead leaves on them, so that's a job to do. So this stunning plant behind me is one called Telanthophora grandifloris. It used to be senecio, but it's got these massive yellow panicles, so it's Asteraceae. It's just lots of little composite flowers built up together, and these really nice kind of glossy leaves. But a couple of weeks ago there was nothing here, and it's just all of a sudden come out like this. I think the common name is giant groundsel or something like that, but it really does work wonders in this nice kind of shady pebble garden we have going. But yeah, amazing. Now Tresco really wouldn't be the same without all its crazy ferns that we have growing around the place, and this massive one behind me is a Cyathea called Cyathea medullaris. So it's the black New Zealand fern, and it's got this lovely slender black trunk and these crazy fronds that hang above me, but it must be massive. There's loads of them growing around the place, and yeah, since family Cyathiaceae, it's just looking amazing. It's amazing how tall they can really get to. Also in the pebble garden we have this lovely shrubby plant here called Phylica pubescens. It's in family Rhamnaceae, and it's native to South Africa. But it almost looks like a Leucadendron. It's got these kind of whirls of leaves going around, and it will have bracts of flowers opening up soon. But the main thing about it is just its soft foliage that it has. I can't stop rubbing my hands all over it. It just looks amazing. And some days when it catches the light, the plant almost glows. So yeah, it's really nice, especially with the backdrop of our Mexico area behind it, with all that aloes just coming into flower. Now, of all the ericas that we have at Tresco Abbey Garden, in November, late November, this one is just looking absolutely incredible. It's one called Erica canaliculata, or as our head gardener likes to say, canaliculata. Gardeners and their sense of humour, right? So it's in family Ericaceae, native to South Africa, and the actual species name, I think it means with grooved leaves. Not that you can see any, just because there's flowers everywhere. And it's a really nice white colour with an almost kind of reddish tint to them. But the thing to recognise the canaliculata is these like long stamens that the flowers have, but they're incredible. It's just such a nice colour. Just walking through the pebble garden, I've spotted this lovely thing in flower. It's a Tecomanthe speciosa, so family Bignoniaceae from the Three Kings Island. And the weird thing about it is that it flowers on old wood. So you can see this is like a trunk, but it's a climbing vine. I'll show you the leaves. That's what they look like. But the flowers, it really doesn't flower too well. I think it's the first time it's flowered in a few years, and it's just these flowers here, but they're so pretty. Look at those. It's amazing the things you see just walking by. When I first came here, I was amazed by this plant here. It's called Leucadendron Fireglow. So the cone bush is the common name. It's got little cones inside. It has these lovely red bracts which turn green as it grows up. And a couple of months ago, with all the new growth, all you could see was just a massive kind of red mat of foliage. So it's in family Proteaceae from South Africa, but a really nice kind of coloured plant. So coming up to winter, all our aloes start flowering, and this one is Aloiampelos ciliaris, I think. So the climbing aloe. And the way to tell it apart is it's got these kind of spikes at the stems and around the leaves. And yeah, these nice orange, almost cream coloured plant flowers with yellow tips to them. And coming down over a wall, it looks really nice. So it's from South Africa and in the family Asphalidaceae. So I'm up on the middle terrace, and this plant right in front of me is one called Phymosia umbellata. It's looking really nice. It's just coming to flower this time of year. It's in family Malvaceae, and it's from Mexico. But it's got these really nice kind of soft leaves that are typical of Malvaceae, and these like red umbrella-like flowers that are just popping up. But it's a nice stark contrast, and yeah, really nice. So this plant all around me, this plant that's just gone mental, is one called Tecomaria canariensis. It used to be a Tecoma, but it's in family Bignoniaceae from South Africa, and it's got these really nice orangey red flowers to them. They almost look like trumpets, and quite a nice kind of pinnate dark green glossy leaves. But it seems to have taken over this whole kind of steps up to our top terrace. It's a scrambling plant. It grows about 2.5 meters a year, and it's semi-deciduous. So in a nice spot like this, it will keep its leaves all year round. It just needs cutting back a bit, but it's really easy to propagate. There's all kinds of suckers that come up from the ground, and I think you can get a yellowy coloured one as well. But yeah, a good plant. So behind me are two flowering vines which have just been going crazy all summer long. One of them is this Passiflora atioquiensis, which is from Colombia and in family Passifloraceae, and the other one is Ipomoea indica, which is from the West Indies, also known as morning glory. But both flowers, they pair really nicely together. The Passiflora, there's actually fruits hanging from it which are edible, I believe, and the Ipomoea, on the other hand, it's in family Convolvulaceae, and it just spreads like crazy. I think it's an invasive plant where it's native to, but against our little steps that we have going up here, they've looked really nice. So just quickly, this plant is worth a special mention. It's the tree Dahlia, so Dahlia imperialis, and the flowers have just opened this week, and they're really nice pink, almost warped petals. They normally don't last very long in Tresco because it's so windy and the stems aren't exactly strong, but you can see just how many flowers there are, and it's Asteraceae, and it spreads spreads like it's Dahlia tubers at the bottom, so easy to propagate, but really stunning if you can get it to stay upright. Another plant looking really nice right now is this one called Tibicina uravelena. I think that's the old name though. It's in family Metasomaceae. So it's a kind of tender shrub with really soft light green leaves from Brazil, and it's got these really deep violet flowers, and the stigmas and stamens and things are just coming out like fireworks from the main flower. It's quite tender, but it's been flowering non-stop since I've arrived. So there's two plants next to me which are still looking nice in November. It's this one here called Tagetes lemanii, which is in family Asteraceae, so the lemon marigold, I believe. Its main feature is this lemon smell, which can be quite sickly if you're working with it quite a while. It's got pinnate leaves and really nice little yellow flowers. Yeah, it's drought tolerant, and yeah, smell is strong. And this one next to me is a salvia called Phyllis Fancy. So really nice salvia. It's almost fluffy, the leaves, the flowers, sorry. Family Lamiaceae from Mexico. And it's super easy to take cuttings, like semi-ripe cuttings with salvias, and it's drought tolerant and it puts up with most soil types. So just walking through the garden, it's really nice to stop and admire some of the trees and the bark that we have. You might not be able to see the leaves, but the bark alone is just something to stop and admire. The tree itself is called Luma apiculata. It's in family Myrtaceae from Chile. Yeah, it's naturalised in the mainland on the UK apparently, but I've never seen it here, and when I first saw it, I wanted one. But yeah, it's a really nice kind of cream colour with crimson patches, and the bark is peeling a little bit, but the leaves look a little bit like a larger box opposites, and the flowers, just like most myrtles, strongly scented, and I think in Chile they're used for honey production. They're quite important, but I think every garden should have a plant like this just for the texture of the bark alone. It does self-seed quite rapidly, and once you have one, you'll have 1,000 by the year after, but it's worth it. So just below our middle terrace is this plant here scrambling down. It's an Abutilon, Abutilon megabotanicum, so family Malvaceae, and it's got these really nice Chinese lantern-like flowers. They've got yellow petals and this red calyx which is protecting them. It's native to Brazil, and yeah, it's been blooming for quite a long time. It lasts a real long while, and it's easy to propagate, but it's got a really nice scrambling form to it, and it's almost encroaching onto the path, but it's good weed suppressant as well. I imagine there's some really nasty things underneath this, but you know, good for the Abutilons. So this plant behind me is one of my all-time favourites. It's Sparmansia africanus, or African hemp. When I first got here, I was amazed by the size that they grow to on Tresco. I mean, this thing behind me is massive, and there's some along the Abbey Drive which are even bigger. But this time of year, they all start producing these lovely flowers, and yeah, there's so many on there. It's a nice white flower with red and yellow stamens, and they have a nastic response, so when you touch them they kind of recurve in on themselves to catch bees and help spread the pollen. It's family Malvaceae, as you can tell by the nice soft leaves, and they're from South Africa. They're super easy to propagate from cuttings, and they grow really quickly. The last place I worked at, we had some in the nursery, and the amount of growth they put on every year is just insane. I was constantly moving them around because they were getting in the way. But yeah, really nice soft leaves, and just an intense amount of flowers. I'm sure most of you will recognise this plant here. It's Fatsia japonica. It's found a lot on the mainland. It's in family Aureliaceae, so the ivy family, and it's just started producing its little white flowers. The name Fatsia, it comes from Japanese actually. Fatsi means 8. You can see each leaf has 8 lobes, and it's nice glossy touch to them, nice waxy feel, and the flowers are a compound umbel, and I mean they're pretty big, as you can see. It's a plant that likes semi-shade, and it's hardy to about -5, but planted en masse like this, it's just crazy when all the flowers start coming out, a real eye catcher. So opening up all around Tresco is this plant here called Paracynthianthes laphantha. It used to be an abesia, but it looks very similar to an acacia. It's in family Fabaceae, so it's got really distinct seed pods which come down like a pea pod, and it's from Australia. The flowers, as you can see these, they're like furry little hedgehogs, really nice. I'm getting pollen all over my fingers, but really soft. They are just like feather dusters, and the bees go mental for them. But yeah, really nice light green foliage. And it kind of started in Western Australia, and I think it moved through it because the early explorers were given seeds to plant as they went through to kind of track their progress, so that's quite cool. The only downside to it is that it's very hard to prune. It really doesn't respond well to it, so once they get to a certain height you just have to cut them down really. But yeah, really nice Tresco plant. So here we are up on our top terrace, which is overlooking the entire garden. The sun is shining and it's looking lovely. And this plant here is a grevillea. It's Grevillea lanigera, I believe. It's teeming with bees, bumbles and honeybees, and it's got these really nice pinky cream flowers with these really long styles. And the way to tell this grevillea apart is that part of the style just before the stigma is hairy, so you can kind of brush it and it has a nice furry texture to it. So yeah, it's family Proteaceae, and like most grevilleas it's from Australia, but it's got a nice trailing habit, and when it gets a bit bigger it's going to look really pretty coming over all the marble stones that we have up here. So this lovely mound of white flowers is a plant called Eriocephalus africanus, or African rosemary, because the leaves look quite similar to rosemary. It's in family Asteraceae and it's from South Africa. But yeah, it has these flowers that form at the end of the tips of the foliage, so as it grows up it spills over things, and there's quite a lot of them here around Tresco, and it smells amazing as well. And I know that the leaves are used for some kind of essential oil, and there's a couple of different species that we have here. One is the Africanus that's right in front of me, and then a slightly more sparse one which is Ramosus. You can see the difference. The rosemary one looks a lot thicker and the Ramosus is a bit smaller, thinner leaves, more delicate flowers as well, but it's a really good plant, and with a light like this it really brings out the whites and the greens. This very sunny plant here is a Euryopsis called Euryopsis speciosa, I think, which means spectacular, and it's lovely bright massive yellow composite flower heads. They are spectacular. So yeah, family Asteraceae, and it's from South Africa, normally found on the sandstone slopes, and the leaves, they look like samphire a little bit. They're quite thin. It's obviously an adaptation to help prevent water loss because of where it's from. But Euryopsis themselves, the genus, it's such a varied genus that most of them don't look similar at all, so it's hard to pick them apart. But this one in particular is really nice, and it can grow up to about 2 meters. This guy's fallen over, so maybe not 2 meters. There's no other garden in the UK that has this many species of proteas, and this one here is one called Protea repens. It's family Proteaceae from South Africa, and it's got these lovely chalice-like flower heads which are quite robust and rigid, and the leaves are also a bit rigid. They look a bit like Neriofolia, but they're thin, almost like lavender. It's very upright, and yeah, the bees like it. It's known for its abundance of nectar and pollen that it produces, and it's quite an adaptable species. You've got this one here which is a kind of reddy cream, and this one here, same species, which is much more white. You can see the difference there, but yeah, really nice protea, and it's just all opening up now. This is another Erica which has been in flower for quite a while now. It's Erica verticulata, family Ericaceae from South Africa. The word verticulata, the epiphyte, it means that the flowers and leaves are born in whorls around the stem. So you can see that it's kind of all around in a nice symmetrical circle, whereas other Ericas are a bit more kind of jumbled and like mixed matched. It's one of the more hardier species. It likes sandy soils, and it has this nice erect form to it. It's quite strong as well, and there is a slight colour differentiation between different plants. You can see this one is a lot deeper pink, whereas this one is a nice light violet colour. But yeah, really nice Erica.